The Timeline is a Blue Wire podcast.
Welcome to the Timeline of Phoenix Suns podcast. Sam, 10 games in, the Phoenix Suns are 500. How are you doing?
500 basketball. I've always said that was the marker for just the utmost level of success. This is exactly where we want to be at 500 basketball, 10 games in.
That's right.
I'm good.
That's right.
How are you?
I'm still a little sick. For those who heard on the Patreon podcast, I was still sick then. I'm still getting over a cold, so apologies about my voice and overall demeanor. But I am happy about the Phoenix Suns. I'll say this: we had a mailbag before the season started, and someone asked you and I if we looked at the first 10 games the Suns were going to play this season, what kind of record would we be happy with after those 10 games? Do you remember what we said?
5-5.
5-5.
500 basketball. And I think at the time, actually, I was wondering if you were going to bring that up because I remembered it too. And at the time, we looked at the schedule. We looked at the teams that we were playing. And I was going to ask you, we didn't talk about this beforehand, but are you satisfied with a 5-5 start given the level of competition they've played and kind of everything else?
I think the level of competition that they played, it would have been nice to win that Utah Jazz game. Losing to them once kind of sucks. They could have easily be over 500 now if they had just won in that overtime. But if you factor in the extent to which they have dealt with injuries, I would say that this is just a success. In this episode, we are going to we've randomly pulled stats on our own, and then we're going to go over those stats. Something we've done every year. We call it by the numbers here. And one of the stats I wanted to look up, I didn't, was how many starting fives they've already had. It must be 5, probably, right? 4 or 5. They've already had
Sounds
different
about right.
starting fives.
Yep.
And they've won 5 of those games, half of those games. It's hard to be upset by that. I know there are things that fans tend to get upset by as far as what goes on during the actual game. But outcome of games, brand new team, totally different system, a bunch of different players playing, and, less talent, you could say, and they've won half of those games. It's hard to be upset by that. I'm pretty happy with it. What about you?
I'm pretty ecstatic, honestly, so far. Given what the expectations were, given how many people were like, this mostly came outside the Suns fan community or the Suns media community, but there were people who thought this was like a 14th best team in the West. And they're just plainly not. I mean, look, a lot could still happen, but they look like a more talented group than that. They look like a legitimate play-in contender, and they're beating some good teams. They're doing it with limited availability. We should talk about Jalen Green, obviously.
Yeah.
Kind of the elephant in the room here is Jalen Green had such a good game returning in his first game back, and then
very exciting
re-aggravates his hamstring last night. And I don't know if there's been a more official report out than what Gambo said this morning. Yeah, I've been waiting on the Shams tweet once they actually get imaging and kind of report it to the media. But at least Gambo's saying he would anticipate 4 to 6 weeks out for re-aggravation of that hamstring. I'm sure he has a source that gave him that info. And I would say that probably feels, just speculating, about right. We're dealing with, unfortunately, Jalen Green, who missed the first 8 games, now going to be out for another month or 2. And so, that's the main return from the Houston Rockets trade. And Dillon Brooks, who is the other part of the Houston Rockets trade, has been out for half of
missed games.
Yeah,
Malawach isn't playing.
Malawach isn't playing.
They're doing this without the KD trade. Yeah, basically.
So the fact that they're 5-5 and have beaten some good teams along the way, I feel really good so far.
I agree. It's tough for them to put that together. And, in thinking specifically about Jalen Green, I'd be surprised if we saw him before the end of the year. I would guess that he's probably going to play. This is not based on any information, of course. But, he had a hamstring issue, and it was re-aggravated. That likely means some sort of grade 2 strain, and I hope it's not worse. That's kind of where my thoughts are at this point, because it was really fun to see him play. He just brings a dynamism to the offense that nobody else outside of Devin Booker can do, just with his speed, his athleticism, and his ability to handle the ball. And look, he was hitting a lot of crazy shots, so it's always fun when the shots go in. So I was really hoping to see them put it together and just get some sort of run with a healthy squad, and it doesn't look like that's going to happen anytime soon. I will say, were you surprised about the starting five once the entire team was healthy? Because we did get to see at least the starting five, and it was Devin Booker, Jalen Green, Grayson Allen, Dillon Brooks, and Mark Williams. Yeah,
I was surprised that Ryan Dunn essentially wasn't in there. As we kind of dive into maybe some of these stats, I think that might clarify a little bit of why that's the case. But conceptually, I get it, right? Like, Ott wants offense, and he wants shooters on the floor at all times. And between Royce wasn't in that starting five, but really between Dillon Brooks, Royce, and Grayson, those three wings that you can just, if you conceptually surround Devin Booker with those three wings, or any combination of two of the three of them at any time, maybe throw Gillespie in there too, you've got a lot of 3-point volume in a way that unfortunately Ryan Dunn can't provide, and maybe some other guys deeper in the depth chart can't provide either. So I get it. They're always going to be scrappy because that's the identity this year, and we're going to talk about that too. But there are going to be teams where just Dillon Brooks can't be your starting power forward, and that's going to continue to be something we talk about with this team, and maybe even potentially, depending on where they are in the standings, how they approach going into trade deadline season, and are they constantly going to be looking for that real power forward, or is Rasheer Fleming going to become more relevant at some point? Are they actually going to dust him off and give him a chance? Because there is a startling lack of size on this team for as much as they hustle and give effort compared to the group last year. You can still just feel it when those guys are together on the floor.
It's a long season, so I think all of these guys are going to get moments where they have to contribute. But, even it's just really tough to keep Grayson Allen off the floor. I'm sure we're going to talk about Grayson Allen, so I kind of understand just finding a way to keep him in that starting lineup, because really that's who it would have been, right, that you would sit on the bench. I think there's a world where he contributes really well off the bench, but, to be frank, in the last 2 games, Ryan Dunn coming off the bench contributed pretty well in those games as well. So maybe Ryan Dunn can be the guy that comes off the bench and finds ways to contribute as well. Either way, they're gonna have to find a way. They put Royce in to the starting lineup yesterday when Jalen Green was no longer in it after he was hurt in the first half. So we'll see what ends up happening going forward, but I imagine it's going to be some mix of those veterans in that starting lineup, just surrounding Devin Booker with shooting and seeing what they could do with that. All right, so let's get into the stats. So each of us pulled, we usually try to do about 5, more if we can, stats, and then we don't tell each other what they are, so there's a chance that we overlap here, and we're just going to reveal them to each other here on the podcast. I actually would like to start, if you don't mind.
No, it's totally fine. I do want to say real quick, like a little bit about why we do this. Why 10 games? Just because 10 games is a fun cutoff, I guess, partially.
Usually we try to do it about every 10 games. Yeah, not just the first 10 games.
Yeah, but the first 10 games, it's a nice, clean, even number. And more specifically, I think we talk around some stuff for the first 10 games because we're trying to give everyone a chance.
Yeah.
And I want to be very clear, too. Just because a guy has a good first 10 games or a bad 10 games doesn't condemn them to some fate for the rest of the season. It's a long season. Right. There are ups and downs, especially when you're talking about shooters. Things are going to ebb and flow. And so just because we're picking up on something as a pattern now doesn't mean that that's always going to be the pattern. But we've had our sort of data collection phase. Jordan Ott has been playing mostly the same rotations every game, when guys, depending on who's available to him, but when guys are healthy. And he's been able to kind of collect some data on them. And now even us regular Joes can look at that public data and draw our own conclusions. And I think we are now entering the portion of the phase where it is fair to talk about what guys tangibly are doing on the floor statistically. And not just from that more theoretical perspective of it looks like he's doing this, or the vibes are
Yes.
good, the vibes are bad. We can be a little bit more narrowly focused.
Yes, and they're snapshots. Just like you said, ultimately, it's not like indicative of their entire careers or even the entire season. They're snapshots. But as we go forward, I think, like we have these first 10 games as a starting point, and then we can pick up on trends from here and see how things adjust and change from this episode going forward. And to start, I think the best place to start with this conversation has to be Devin Booker. That's why I wanted to go first here. And for Devin Booker, there's a lot of stats that you could cover. Like, he's a career high in points, a career high in assists, and we're in 10 games, a career high in efficiency. Also, second only to Tyrese Maxey in total minutes played so far this season. Did you realize he was playing that many minutes so far?
I didn't see that one, no.
Do you want to know something crazy? Tyrese Maxey has played one less game than Devin Booker and still has more minutes. That's how much Nick Nurse is playing Tyrese Maxey so far.
Nick Nurse is crazy. He might
Crazy.
He might regret that. I don't know. Nick Nurse has always been like that. I don't think Jordan Ott is going to be one of those guys.
Yeah, I mean, it's just tough to get, they really do get hammered and without Devin Booker on the floor. And to that
that's
point,
what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, per cleaning the glass, the Suns are 22 points better per 100 possessions when Devin Booker is on the floor. So they're just so much better. That's the highest of his career, that biggest difference, meaning he has the largest impact on winning at this point of his career, which is always relative to the teammates that you play with, right? Because if he comes off the floor and Kevin Durant's on, they're going to be pretty good still, or if Chris Paul is running the offense and they're going to find ways to score still. But the two things that I wanted to point at to talk about Devin Booker so far this season are, in that cleaning the glass stat, 22 points better per 100 possessions. The Suns are 14 points better on defense with Devin Booker on the floor so far this season. And I mentioned it when we talk about Hustle Player of the Week every week on our Patreon podcast, but I mentioned it that Devin Booker also has been hustling, and Devin Booker also has been putting effort in defensively. Even last night in the Clippers game, he was picking up full court at times, like Olympic style. Devin Booker was basically seen during that game. And I just wanted to take this as a moment to say, for the Phoenix Suns to be better on defense with Devin Booker on the floor, that is rare. That is not something that has happened throughout his career, and it's currently happening so far. He is doing a good job defensively, and all of the stats are pointing towards that. So first we'll talk about that. I have one more point about Devin Booker, but what do you think about that?
Yeah, I have a bunch more stats about Book too, if we're going to get into a whole conversation about it. I mean, basically, I think his entire game has been awesome through the first 10 games. I think you could look at scoring, you could look at playmaking, and you could look at defense. There is one other guy who we'll probably get to later who is more of an on-off differential king than Devin Booker. And so it's like, especially...
We have the same stat for him. I'm excited to get to that one.
Especially when you're only 10 games in, it's impossible to separate the two, right?
Yeah.
You're good.
We knocked some stuff down on my desk here.
You're good. We heard that. It's okay.
Yeah.
You can't talk about Book being, plus $1 million without eventually getting to the other guy on this team who is also plus $1 million. And so I'm sure some of the defense is a function of that, but we'll get there. I think Book has done his part defensively.
The other thing I wanted to talk about with him, and then I want to hear your stats for him. He's currently 10th in the NBA in drives per game at over 16 drives per game. That is a high for him in both the number of drives per game and like the standings in the rest of the NBA. So Devin Booker is currently driving more towards the basket than at any point of his career. Now, it's always been important to get Devin Booker drives because it turns into good shots most of the time. And in the past, Durant doesn't drive that much because he can score so easily without driving. And Bradley Beal, we know all the issues there. In fact, we saw them in the last two Clippers games. But when he is the main guy, it's really, really important for him to drive a lot. And so far he has been. And it's been a career high for him in drives. And I hope that is something that is sustainable for him and the Suns. And I think to Jordan Ott's credit, they're finding a good amount of ways to get him going downhill. In fact, I posted like a staggered double drag type play that they ran 3 times in a row last night just to get him on the other side of James Harden, which, to be fair, not very hard right now. James Harden not playing great defense, but they did it multiple times, and he got either an assist or a score out of 2 of them. So just give him a lot of credit in his intentionality when it comes to driving.
Yeah, I want to credit Book for that. To your point, I also want to credit Jordan Ott for that. One of my stats about Book here is related to, because we know he's such a good manipulator at this point. He's such a good playmaker, but he's doing it with what I believe intentionally is a little bit more of a limited touch slate. Book's touches have actually gone up this year. That's not surprising. He's not sharing the ball with Kevin Durant anymore. But I think it's interesting to note that he is at 75 touches per game. That's 22nd in the NBA this season through 10 games. That's far less than kind of the very heliocentric guys you think of who are up at or over 100 touches per game. That includes Luka Doncic, Jokic, Cade Cunningham, guys like that. And Cade Cunningham, I guess, is just one of those guys now. He was like that in Detroit
crazy.
Last year, too.
Yeah.
So Book is at 75 touches per game. He's 22nd in the NBA in touches per game. He's 17th in time of possession, the total amount of time that the ball is in his hands. So 17th, you'd expect a guy who's a number 1 option to fall somewhere in the top 30, obviously. But by no means is he like pounding the ball into the court, dribbling the ball out. Like, he's making quick decisions with the ball. And in spite of that, in spite of being just 17th in time of possession, he's averaging 30 points per game. And he's 5th in the NBA in potential assists. He's 15th in actual assists, but guys are breaking a lot of shots so far when Devin Booker is passing to them that I think will normalize over time. And based on the potential assist stat, I think there is maybe even an assist or 2 that he's leaving on the table based on how he's playing right now. We'll see in the future. If you want proof of how he is manipulating the game, what better proof than to point at the fact that this guy, 22nd in touches, 17th in possession time, and yet every time he touches the ball, it's either a bucket for him or a bucket for someone else, or a potential bucket for someone else, right? At a top 5, top 10 level in the NBA right now. And it's not something, by the way, too, that we're really used to seeing with Devin Booker this early. He has always warmed up as the season progresses. And he has always, if you look at the scoring numbers, he has always kind of defaulted to, or like deferred a little bit to other guys and tried to get other guys going before he gets himself going. Last 5 seasons, I pulled up his scoring averages through the first 10 games for the past 5 seasons. 23 points per game last year, 27 the year before that, 27 3 years ago, 23 4 years ago, 22 5 years ago. This year, 29.3.
Yeah.
So his scoring's up, but his assists are also sky high, but his efficiency's also sky high. He's getting to the free throw line more than ever before. And, as you pointed out, they're better defensively with him on the court, too. That's like all...
Yeah.
You know, we're 10 games in, but like that's all the MVP. That's basically the MVP case right there. Like that's all the MVP stuff that he's doing.
Yeah.
He's scoring.
I mean, yeah.
He's manipulating the game. He's passing. He's playing defense. You could not ask. By the way,
the Suns are way better when he's on the floor. Yeah.
Career high in offensive rebounds too. You know, he's crashing a little bit more often because I think the entire team is crashing more often. So we'll see where all this stuff goes and you know, where the pattern leads and how it normalizes, and eventually Jalen will come back. And I don't think Book is going to average 30 points a game if he's ever playing with a healthy Jalen Green, but who knows? Maybe that's possible. But so far, he's just been incredible as an engine of their offense with just enough wiggle room where he doesn't have this load where he has to bring the ball up every possession and where they're really like weighing him down with too heavy of a burden. So I think, you know, again, Book gets so much credit for executing. Jordan Ott gets that credit for the game plan.
Are you at all concerned about the turnovers? He's a career high in turnovers now, not by much, but a career high in turnovers.
No.
Averaging about 4.2, I think.
Nope, not especially.
Me neither. A lot of them came in those first few games where just guys were not where they were supposed to be, and I think everyone is sort of getting used to the offense, and guys were injured. And his assist to turnover ratio still pretty good. for someone who's turning it over that much, he's also getting the assists to counter it. So I think that those sometimes go hand in hand a little bit. But yeah.
I mean, I think
is that why you're not concerned?
No, basically his turnovers are going to be up compared to both the Chris Paul and the KD era because that's just how it works,
Less good players, yeah.
Less good players, less gravity around him from other players. And that's fine and that's normal, but I think Book is more than capable at kind of countering with his own punches, no matter what the defense throws at him. Sometimes that's going to mean... Yeah, sometimes that's going to mean 3 or 4 bodies
it does, yes.
loaded up against him.
Still one of the most trapped players in the NBA by stats.
Sure, yeah. And again, that's another area where it's just unfortunate because we know Jalen Green would help. We saw already in
They've been pretty
game
good at it this year,
Green
actually.
helped.
When they trap him high, I don't know. Yeah, but yes, Jalen Green would help. Yeah. I do think his turnovers often come when the help comes on drives, like when he gets a little deeper into the paint. Or, just like some dumb turnovers every once in a while. Offensive fouls like he had in the... By the way, the refs in that Clippers game was out of their minds, right? Mm-hmm. It's just insane refereeing, I thought.
Yeah, no, we were a little bit lucky to pull away with it just because... I mean, I would have been incensed if they didn't win that game at the end, judging from some of those calls.
Ultimately, an excellent Devin Booker season so far, and I think, to me, better than I could have asked for because, like you said, I expect him to start a little slower, and really he started better than I could have even expected.
He's, the all-time greatest son and whatever, and, I'm expecting him to come out and average 25 and 5, and he's doing a lot more than that, so
yes,
he's been awesome.
Two of my favorite things are coffee and basketball. You start your morning with coffee every morning, and that means you should treat yourself right in the morning, every morning, to start your day well. The best way to do that is with coffee from Alchemy Roast. Go to alchemyroaster.com and use the promo code Timeline to buy some coffee today. Alchemy Roast is a Metro Phoenix-based coffee roaster that focuses on the transformational process of coffee from seed to cup. They're about more than just coffee. It's about passion, dedication, and community. They're a small batch roastery committed to sourcing the finest beans and mastering the art of the roast, and they do it ethically. I love their coffee. I start my day with it every single morning. I make espresso. You can make pour over. You can make drip coffee. You can make anything with it. Just go to alchemyroaster.com today and use the promo code Timeline. Get 10% off. Support us here at the podcast. Alchemy Roast is the best coffee. That's alchemyroaster.com. Promo code Timeline at checkout.
Okay. Should we go to me?
Yes.
Let's flip to a guy who has not been awesome.
Yes.
It's time, and I think a lot of people are thinking finally they're going to do it. It's time to have the Oso Ighodaro conversation.
Yeah, we have to. Yeah. By the way, only 9 minutes last night.
Yep. And maybe Jordan Ott is already, I know he's already having these conversations with his assistants. Maybe he's already in the next phase, which is... devising an action plan and executing on that action plan. So we'll see. Oso Ighodaro is a player who, on paper, that type of player is very near and dear to my heart. Think prime Boris Diaw. Think prime Lamar Odom. I don't know, who's a center version of the Bam Adebayo, I guess, at the top. Draymond Green is one that we've mentioned, right? These skilled, undersized bigs who, in spite of their lack of size, just find a way to survive in the NBA because they are so good at using their smarts, at using their ability to pass the ball and get motion side to side. And in theory, that is what Oso Ighodaro was drafted to be. Now, of course, he was drafted second-round pick. What are the reasonable expectations of a second-round pick? Most second-round picks don't work out. But there was a lot of excitement, I think, rightfully so, around some of what Oso was able to do at his best last year.
Mm-hmm.
He comes out this year. It's been a rough 10 games. I mean, I'll just throw out some stats. Oso Agudaro per 36, because, he's playing like 12 minutes a game anyway, maybe 15 at the most. But per 36, so assume a game where he's going to play a lot, might look something like this. He'll average 8.7 points.
Yikes.
6.8 rebounds, 46% from the field, 50% from the free throw line, 6.8 fouls per 36 is a big one too. His offensive rebound, I'm just going to throw out all the stats. I'm going to empty the clip on Oso for a second if that's okay. His offensive rebound percentage. He has 3 offensive rebounds on the season so far. The percent of offensive rebounds that he's grabbing, 14th out of 15 guys on the team, only ahead of Grayson Allen. Every other guard ahead of Oso Agudaro in offensive rebounding. He is the 4th worst player in the entire NBA by value over replacement player, VORP.
Yikes, that's pretty bad.
The 3rd worst player in the NBA by VORP. Do you want to know who that is?
Is it Bradley Beal by any
It's
chance?
Bradley Beal. I had to bring that up because that's very funny.
Yeah.
The offensive rating through 10 games with Oso Agudaro on the floor is 101. The offensive rating with him off the floor, regardless of if that's Mark Williams, it's mostly Mark Williams, but also a little bit of Nick Richards or Kaman Malawach, is 118. So a 17-point difference in the negative direction when Oso is on the floor offensively.
Really bad. Really. Yeah.
This is untenable.
To
be an NBA
I would say
player.
I'd be shocked if he plays a lot more beyond this. I think we've seen enough, and I think Jordan Ott didn't even play him in the second half last night. So really bad.
He's currently
the thing with
go ahead.
The thing with him is like there's this theoretical offensive thing he can do, and he's not, and it's not making the team better. He does have some perimeter defense skills, but if that's the only thing that he's doing, his negative impact on the offense is so bad that there's no way of overcoming it, and that includes playing him at power forward. Because theoretically, like we've talked about, maybe he's not a center. Maybe he can do some power forward things. Maybe that's something that can work, but that hasn't worked either. They've tried that too. Now I'm not looking at the stats for Nick Richards lineups.
I will say they've only tried it next to Nick Richards, and I would still in the future. And again, this kind of goes back to what I was saying at the beginning. I don't believe that these 10 games condemn Oso. Like, I think he can get better than this for the rest of the season if he does play anymore. And I'm hoping that this is just a really bad stretch for him. I really like Oso. He's a really smart kid. He's really nice in all of his interviews.
I looked up the Nick Richards Oso Agudaro stats. They have a offensive rating of 90 with the 2 of them on the floor.
Yeah.
But a defensive rating of 87.5. So it is technically a positive net rating, but obviously the offensive rating of 90 wouldn't even have been good in the worst offensive eras of the NBA.
Let me just say, we know that Oso is going to continue to play some minutes sometimes because Mark Williams is going to miss some games. He's going to not even play back-to-backs. And in those cases, I'm sure Oso will be around. I would love to see him play a few minutes at power forward next to Kaman Malawach or next to Mark Williams. You know, I really don't mind them continuing to experiment with him. It's just that right now, he is by far the worst player in the rotation, unless you count Nigel Hayes-Davis, who isn't even really...
He's not in the rotation
He's
anymore.
not even in the rotation anymore, so now I think it's definitively Oso Agudaro. And he does not have an NBA skill. As of today, he does not. Yes, he can pass. Defenses can also just sag off of him because they're not afraid of his drive. The floater isn't as efficient as it needs to be, and also he never gets to the free throw line, and if he does get to the free throw line, then he misses the free throws. I said, he never gets offensive rebounds.
Teams know to foul him if he's under the rim. Just hack him.
Yeah, he never gets offensive rebounds because he's too small. It's like I don't even blame him for those things. It's just you have to strain to see where the value is in Oso right now, and through 10 games it hasn't been anywhere. They would be, put it this way, I believe that Kaman Malawach is probably a raw project who fucks up in practice all the time. Like, I believe, Jordan Ott's eyes.
Yeah.
But if you put Kaman Malawach out there for 10 or 12 minutes a game right now, I really think, the
highs will be higher.
And I think the worst that it could be, he would probably match that 100 offensive rating that Oso is doing.
I think
it can't possibly be worse than what Oso is doing right now.
My theory is he's turning it over a lot in practice. And Ott is the Suns have a turnover problem right now. This is not one of my stats, but like if they clean up the turnovers, they're going to win even more. And I'm not sure that he can gamble or that he's in the mood to gamble with a player that is going to be turnover prone right now. Because we've seen with Malawach playing in what we've seen him play, he does tend to turn it over a bit. And I think that's kind of what they're worried about here. So I don't know that it's entirely like I think that like when Malawach played at Duke, he had the largest positive impact on their offensive rating. So he does have, and that's without shooting threes, by the way, just as like the rim runner guy who catches it above the rim kind of guy. So like I think he does have this history of having a positive impact overall on the offense. But you know the NBA is different. I think the turnovers, but I think they need to try it anyway, and they will. I still will continue to blindly feel like Malawach will play soon, and we'll get a good look at it. But yeah, I think we're at the point with Oso Ighodaro that if you're playing him, it's because everyone else is not healthy. But I don't know how bad it has to get before Malawach is ahead of him in that. Because I think right now, if I had to guess, because he played yesterday, Oso Ighodaro is still above him in the rotation, right?
Above Malawach?
Yeah.
I guess I'm just making my point that he already shouldn't be. But
I agree.
I do think I do think Ott has already made these sorts of rotation adjustments. And I have faith. I haven't been impressed by Nick Richards either. And you probably haven't either. But like he's been, compared to Oso, he's been good, I guess you could say. Still bad overall. Yeah. It's just like Malawach, he was a 10th overall pick. And it would be one thing if these backup centers were winning us games, but they are not. And maybe our next stat should be about the guy.
Yeah, it's here. We're here.
We're here. Extent,
I'll do it.
The extent to which they are not. So go ahead.
When Mark Williams is on the floor for the Phoenix Suns, they are 32.8 points better per 100 possessions. He has, by far, the largest on-off impact of any player on the Suns, outside of Jalen Green, because we're not counting him yet. By far, the largest impact, especially for a guy who's played the amount of minutes that he has. The thing about this stat, and I'll let you talk about it too, is that it's one of those things. There are times where you see a stat like this and you go, well, there must be something weird in there, right? Because it doesn't match your eye test. The thing about this stat for Mark Williams, it matches the eye test. They're so much better when he's on the floor. First of all, he's been good. I don't want to take anything away from him. But also, everyone who plays behind him has been bad. Like, not good. So, obviously, he's going to have that, like, outsized impact overall in the numbers. But, look, I expected it to be large. I didn't expect it to be a larger number than Devin Booker's numbers, and it's actually significantly larger.
Yeah, I didn't either. So I'll say a couple things. First of all, on-off differential, which is the type of stat we're talking about, it's half what you do, and it's also half what the guy who is not you does. And so
for him, there's just one other guy that plays when he's not on the floor usually, right? It's just whoever the backup center is. It's not like
right. But my point just being, Mark Williams, I'm gonna compliment him in a second because I do think he's been awesome. But part of what goes into that plus 32 is how bad the guy we just talked about has been, Oso, right? If you replaced Oso with, I don't know, Mason Plumlee or like some like baseline level of competence from like the centers they had, like even Drew Eubanks. People didn't like Drew Eubanks, but if Drew Eubanks was backing up Mark Williams right now, he'd be a plus 16 and not a plus 32, probably.
Yeah.
So that's part of what goes into that. That being said, this is why it's hard to judge centers in the NBA. And I think people really struggle to judge centers because it's like, you look at Mark Williams' stat line, they're not running a whole lot of plays for him. They reward him sometimes, but it's not like he's averaging a career high in points. He's averaging 13 points and just a hair under 10 rebounds a game. He's averaging less than 1 block a game so far. Of course, he only plays 26 minutes. And 59% from the field, that's good. 77% from the free throw line, that's good for a guy of his size, right? It's fine. Those are fine numbers. And then you look at the impact, and the impact has been humongous. It's been awesome. His hands on defense have been really good. He's rating out really, really high in deflection stats so far. He's getting steals.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
He's switching out onto the perimeter and not dying on guys like James Harden. When he has to guard James Harden for a possession, he can do it. Now, honestly, Oso that's like probably the one thing that Oso can do better than Mark Williams. But Mark Williams can still do it too. Evidently, like they trust him to do that from time to time. So he's capable of doing that. He doesn't block shots, but the rim protection numbers so far, at least, like it says, through 10 games, he's holding guys to 7% less at the rim than they normally shoot.
That's very good for him.
That's very good. It's only 10 games, but that's very good. And I always think it's interesting when you see a guy who like doesn't get blocks but is good in that stat, because it just, I don't know, it means that they're either getting some luck or they're just like naturally good at contesting without actually timing the block. It's a weird thing. But so far, he's making a huge impact on both ends. Offensive rebounding, that's always just been something you can't question about Mark Williams. We know he's an amazing offensive rebounder. He's been an amazing offensive rebounder for the Suns. So I've been really impressed with him, and it's a little nerve-wracking the extent to which we are so reliant on him to be a good basketball team.
That's it.
Yeah.
You know, that's the thing about this stat is like part of it makes you go, oh, great. And the other part of it makes you go, oh, no. What do they do if he misses time? When he misses time? Because there's really no solution for this team. You know, that's why it's important to get Malawach up to speed as quickly as possible if they can find a way to do that. Whether that be on the court in game minutes or something that they're doing in practice that we don't understand yet. But we need him to be ready soon because, as soon as Mark Williams misses time, this team is going to struggle. They just don't have anyone that can come in and do the things that he does. And to all your points, like he does all the things you mentioned, and he just doesn't have an off switch. Like he's just moving around. He's running. He gets down the floor first multiple times. He had a really crazy alley-oop in the last game. And they don't run plays for him, but he's an option on most of the plays, as most centers are. Like that is the best shot you can get. That's why it's always covered. I even think they can get better at getting him the ball if they just figure out how to throw him lobs even higher, because he skies for rebounds sometimes. Like he really gets up there for big rebounds, and I think they could throw the ball even higher to him on some of these lobs, and he could finish off some of those lobs. But I really do appreciate what he's done so far this year.
Really important to note, as we're on the Mark Williams segment, he leads the team in total boom rooms. This is a stat tracked
That's right.
This is a stat tracked by the Boom Room in Discord. Shout out to him.
Yeah.
Who's
I think he's on Twitter too. Yeah.
I think he's on Twitter too, but is tracking the number of times that K-Ray uses.
Takes him to the boom room.
Uses the phrase "takes him to the boom room" which
is hilarious
for said player. There have been 5 boom rooms. This stat is as of today. This data is as of today, I should say. There have been 5 total boom rooms this season so far. 3 of them have gone to Mark Williams. The other 2, one to Ryan Dunn, and actually one to Oso Ighodaro. So credit to him for that.
He had a big dunk early on. Yeah,
but I think what you need for a boom room is it needs to
dunk on someone.
It needs to be a contact dunk.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you need to be putting someone in the boom room as opposed to just bringing the boom. You can bring the boom.
And you can bring the boom with a jump shot.
Yeah, I suppose you can. Can you?
I think he says it for Devin Booker threes occasionally.
Does he? Okay.
I believe so.
Okay. Well, yeah, that can be a solo
Maybe
act.
he just says boom. I don't know.
I think he just says boom for that. And I think like a transition dunk, a transition tomahawk,
that's
windmill,
when you're bringing it.
Whatever, you're bringing the boom. It is a solo act. You can go,
we need a wiki for this.
You can bring the boom by yourself. You can go to the movies by yourself. Certain things require 2 to tango.
That's right.
Such as the physical
the boom room
of bringing someone to the boom.
Yeah, you can't bring no one to the boom room. Yeah, that's right.
No, you can boom yourself, but you can't boom anyway.
Yeah. Congratulations, you boomed
all right.
yourself.
Where should we go from here? Can I pose something to you? This isn't a single stat. I want to do a rapid fire segment with you.
Perfect.
I'm just going to throw out where the Suns rank as a team in some stats right now.
Yeah, I'm glad you did that. I think we have to do this regularly because you inspired that bet between Matt Ishbia and Bill Simmons. So, yeah.
I just want you to tell me, I'm going to ask you, like, does this feel right? Does this match or not match your expectations going into the season?
Yes.
Okay. Ready?
Yes.
16th in offense.
16th in offense is actually... That's about what I would expect, but higher than I thought it would be at this point of the season, especially without Jalen Green.
21st in defense.
That sounds about right to me.
It's not 30th.
It's not 30th,
Certainly
and I never
not
thought
30th.
it would be. Yeah.
They've had a couple of games where they've locked down, and they've also had a couple of games mostly
They're
towards
still
the beginning.
small, so yeah.
Exactly. 24th in pace.
That can't be right. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. I wouldn't lie to you.
What are they at right now? Do you have that number?
What do you mean? What are they at?
Like, what's
the
their
actual
pace?
number of possessions. This is
Is it over 100 still?
This is the basketball reference one, so it might be a little. No, it's 98.9.
Wow.
Last year,
you know what?
They were at 97.1, which was 25th. Wow, interesting.
Yeah.
So they are technically a hair faster than last year.
The
but
whole
still,
league is crazy fast right
but
now.
the whole league is faster. That's a good point. Does this surprise you? This surprised me for sure.
Yes, that does surprise me. I thought they would be higher. And that number seems lower than I anticipated.
So I didn't do the extra digging to see like if this is why it is, but my hypothesis about this would be I think the Suns definitely want to prioritize transition offense when they can. More about that in a second.
Yeah.
When they're in a half-court offense, though, right? Like, you know, you can push off a miss. Much harder to push off a make. And so when they're forced into a half-court offense, this is a type of stat that I just think, like, they don't, especially without Jalen Green, they just haven't had enough dribble drive guys. You need ball handlers to have a quick half-court offense. Otherwise, you end up in a situation which I think you've seen from the Suns a lot, 10 games in, which is, say, guys like Grayson or Royce, Jordan Goodwin, those sorts of guys are out on the floor, and you just have a bunch of wing players passing to each other on the perimeter and then like setting guard-to-guard screens for each other and sort of just like trading handoffs until inevitably one of them chucks up a three at the end of the shot clock. That's fine. Like, if that has to be your offense because that's your level of talent, then that's your offense. Right. I just think if Jalen Green was healthy for these 10 games, in theory, I'd like to think their pace would be way quicker.
I think one thing I realized this season is we just have to come to terms with the fact that Devin Booker's methodical. And that's the way he prefers to play offense. It's often setting it up and running the play with everyone in the right spot. And that helps him to get his assists, and then it helps him to score. And sort of it being sort of frantic with him on the ball does not really benefit his play style. With him off the ball, he kind of fits into sort of a more frantic style of offense because he's just really good at off-ball movement. But on the ball, I think he likes it to be a little slower and a little more methodical. The other thing is they've played with some leads in the last few games, and when they play with a lead, they slow it down. The second half has been slowed. So I think that probably affects it too. But I wonder if that's just where it's going to be the rest of the season or if they're going to find ways to speed up. I guess we'll find out if we can pull some stats with just Jalen Green games once he starts playing and see if that impacted it at all.
Yeah, for sure we'll be able to. I got a few more. Okay. 5th in three-point attempts.
That seems right, yeah. This is why I thought the offense would be pretty good. I mean, just that alone, right? Because they have so many guys who can shoot threes on this team. That's how they're sustaining their offense so far.
They're getting, let me see the numbers.
I mean, I will say, not having Kevin Durant impacted my expectations on that too.
Yeah, no, it does for me too. I also think though this is a Ryan Dunn stat. Not an anti-Ryan Dunn stat, but it's like this is why Ryan Dunn is maybe not in the starting lineup now because if you include Jalen Green, maybe I shouldn't, but Devin Booker is 6th on this team in three-point attempts per game.
Right.
Grayson, Brooks, Royce, Jalen, and Colin Gillespie, all 5 of those guys are taking more than 6 threes a game each.
Yeah, that rocks.
That's awesome. That's crazy. Yeah. And all 5 of them, actually Dillon Brooks is shooting 32%. But the other guys are all shooting a really high percentage. Grayson's above 40. Royce is above 40.
Grayson's shooting off the dribble too.
Colin Gillespie's at 38. So there are only a couple guys in this rotation who really can't shoot threes. And Ryan is one of them. You know, he's at 31%. He's trying. He's taking over 3 a game. But he's more or less... I think there are absolutely a lot of areas to praise Ryan Dunn on in his sophomore season where he has improved since last year. Yeah. As a three-point shooter, it seems like he's basically the same guy.
Yeah.
And so that's just what it is. Okay, a couple more. 3-point attempts. 5th in steals.
That's awesome.
They said
that surprises me.
They said they wanted that to be their identity.
Yeah. That surprises me, though.
It has been. Last year, I think they were bottom 5 in this stat. 18th
Makes sense.
in blocks.
That sounds about right. They're just not very big.
Yeah, I definitely thought that this number would be higher going into the season, but that's because I thought that Malawach would play.
Yeah.
I think if Malawach starts playing instead of Oso, this number goes up. For sure.
Yeah, probably.
Right? Right now, they just don't have enough. And actually, number one on the team in total blocks right now. Do you know who it is?
Number one, is it Ryan Dunn?
It's Ryan Dunn.
Yeah. I mean, he's had some good ones.
Who's number 3?
And Mark Williams, like you said, doesn't get a lot.
Ryan Dunn's number 1. Mark Williams is number 2. Who's number 3 on the team in total blocks?
Is it Colin Gillespie?
It's Colin Gillespie.
Yeah. He's had some good ones too. So yeah. Not a ton of blocks for this team. I'm actually surprised they're even that high. I would have expected that to be lower just based on vibes.
They have a lot of guys, though. Like I think their guards. It's weird. Their guards and forwards actually block shots pretty consistently. Like we just said, Gillespie gets a few blocks. Dylan Brooks, Grayson Allen, like those guys are capable. It's their centers who don't block a lot of shots around the rim. So it's weird. That's all I got for those.
Let me add one to that. One of my stats. 5th in cut plays.
Okay.
So they talked about how they wanted to cut a lot this year. You know, it was something that Jordan Ott talked about quite a bit. So I'm looking through the team stats, the play types for the NBA. The Suns were not very high in most of these stats. Like it wasn't like a high amount of pick and rolls, wasn't a high amount of isolations. By the way, Devin Booker also a career high in efficiency in isolation. Very good in isolation so far this year. But the one thing they stood out in as far as the total amount of scoring plays, or at least shooting plays, was cuts. They're 5th in the NBA in plays off cuts. And cuts are some of the most effective plays in the NBA because it tends to mean that you're scoring at the rim by yourself. So if they can keep that up, and I think they probably can, it's mostly Ryan Dunn, right? I mean, occasionally Jordan Goodwin. Mark Williams probably factors into some of those as cuts.
Dunker spot plays. Dunker spot plays count.
They count as cuts
on the NBA website.
Yeah. So I thought that was good. It was a proof of concept for them too. They thought they could do that more, and they are, and they're doing a good job of doing that so far this season.
That's why Ryan needs to continue to play. You know, like I understand he doesn't shoot to the extent that some of these other guys do, but he's bringing the size. He's blocking shots. He's cutting on
bringing
offense.
the boom.
He's booming. He's honestly booming consistently on dudes. So, you got to reward him for that.
Yeah. Okay, let me do another one. Yeah, I got one. The most played lineup for the Suns so far this season: Devin Booker, Grayson Allen, Royce O'Neal, Ryan Dunn, and Mark Williams. First of all, are you surprised by that?
No.
71 minutes so far for those 5, and they have a plus 14 net rating. Plus 14 net rating for Devin Booker, Grayson Allen, Royce O'Neal, Ryan Dunn, and Mark Williams. The reason I wanted to bring this one up is because 4 of those guys were on the team last year. Plus 14 net rating is really good. And just to see how well this team is clicking with the 4 guys that were here last year, plus Mark Williams, I thought was pretty impressive. Now, of course, Mark Williams does make a big difference in this. The Suns struggled with centers the last 2 seasons. You know, something we talked about constantly on this podcast was our desperate attempt to find a center who actually could play for this team. So having one that is good in Mark Williams is helpful. But I still, that team was awful last year. I still was pretty impressed with the fact that this lineup, which had 4 guys that were on the team last year, had a plus 14 net rating just by optimizing the types of stuff that Devin Booker does. Credit to Jordan Ott, and of course the addition of Mark Williams.
It's just a lot of pieces that fit together, honestly, better than maybe even I thought they would.
I mean, their defense is good too in that lineup. That's what's crazy because it's still pretty small, but it has good defense.
Yeah, and just the constant vertical spacing threat of Mark Williams paired with Ryan Dunn. I think I've talked about in the past, like Ryan Dunn and Oso as the new twins or whatever. I know those 2 guys are friends. It's hard to play them together when Oso is the center as a sort of non-vertical spacing threat, unfortunately. I mean, I know in theory they want him to be, but then also to have Ryan on the court, it's just really hard. But when you have a true rim runner and then Ryan is out there, and then you have shooters, and obviously you have Devin Booker manipulating every play. It works. I don't know if it works at like a contending level, but it works at a competent NBA basketball team level. And again, this is the episode where we're happy with 500 basketball. We're going to establish this as our baseline, and we're going to try and build up from here. But right now, you take what you can get. And I've really liked what I've seen from that lineup.
Shout out Grayson. Well, we talked about him extensively on our last podcast. I'm not sure if you have any stats on him, so I'm just going to use this as the opportunity to talk about just how good he has been.
How about this?
Since you have a stat, I'll move on to Royce just real quick and say,
sure.
Royce was concerning me early and just has put together some really good stretches of basketball. It just feels like whenever the Suns are ahead, which they've been ahead in a few games, and a team is making a run, the guy who tends to shut that down with a clutch three has been Royce O'Neal quite a bit. And this is all vibes. I'm going entirely off vibes, but it just feels like he hits a big three in every win that they have.
A lot of them too. I think if you're talking about the ones last night, those were off the catch that Book created. But I've also noticed Royce is not a guy who's afraid to take a transition pull-up three to just shut a team up. And honestly, he's pretty good at them. I think I looked this up, and I don't have it written down. I think he's like 4 for 8 on self-created pull-up threes this year.
Pretty impressive.
Small sample size, but just like the fact that he's willing to take them is really important. And I think he's an easy guy to pick on because with Royce, you're often getting all or nothing. Either he makes the threes or he doesn't. But you just have to admit he's been good through the first 10 games.
Yeah.
In more games than he hasn't. I think Grayson.
What do you got on Grayson? Yeah.
I think Grayson's been better though. I think Royce has been
Grayson
good.
has been. We called him the second best player on the Suns on our last episode. So yeah.
Here's
I think that holds.
Grayson Allen has scored in double figures every single game this season.
Wow.
You know who can't say that? Victor Wembanyama, who scored 9 points against the Phoenix Suns.
That's true.
I did not look up if this is a career high for Grayson. Let's see. It's it's 10 straight games with 10 plus points. He is at 16.3 per game, which is by far a career high.
Yeah.
So far. And honestly, now that Jalen's out, he's going to have this increased workload. He just is. I don't know if there's no way. Like, he's averaged 10 points or like 10 to 12 points per game for several straight years. Got to slow down.
Yeah. Since 2021.
But there's just no way he's ever put 10 of these games in a row together. I think this has to be the first time.
Yeah, could be.
16.3 points, 4.7 assists to 2 turnovers, 1.4 steals, 9 3-point attempts per game at 41%. But this is the big one, too. Like, I really wanted to make sure we mentioned this. Grayson is second on the Suns in drives per game right now. He's averaging 10 drives per game. That's double what he did last year.
Right.
And I don't think it's a role that he excels at. I don't think it's the role that long-term he should have to have. But it's a responsibility that's been thrust upon him for better or worse. He is making the most of it. And when he drives the ball, he doesn't turn it over, almost ever. He has 2 turnovers on drives this season to 15 assists. So he's not turning the ball over. He's getting the ball up on the rim so that, if he isn't blocked, that is, he's getting the ball up on the rim. So it's like, we know that he's not the most athletic guy. We know that he's not going to finish like 70% of his layups or whatever. But he's trying to propel the offense forward to get a shot up on the rim. Maybe a guy can get an offensive rebound. Maybe he can dish it to someone. He's got, like I said, way more assists than turnovers on drives. He is trying, and he's doing a really solid job of it, I think, for a guy where everyone knows this isn't supposed to be his role. So for him to be averaging basically 16 points, 5 assists a game through 10 games is pretty
impressive.
Crazy. Yeah.
It's just been a really crazy season for him. So consistently good in the minutes he's played, and he's second on the team in minutes played, and he's actually in the top 10 in the NBA in total minutes played as well. I talked about Devin Booker being second overall. Grayson's right up there with him. Grayson's played a ton of minutes, and the Suns have needed every single one, and I give him a lot of credit, not just for being good, but for, just like you said, adjusting his game in order to be good. His passing has been good. His assists have been good. He's shooting off the dribble and he's driving. And his defense has been great, like legitimately great. There's just so much that he's done so far this season that the Suns have needed, and that has all sort of culminated in him essentially being the second best player on the Suns so far this year.
I'm just really happy about it because there was a lot of hand-wringing, and who knows what the future holds with all these guys, honestly, but there was a lot of hand-wringing about the Grayson contract last year, I felt like. You know, a lot of people felt he regressed last year, and suddenly they were nervous about his, like, $16 million a year that he's making.
Right.
I guess it's 17. I'm looking now, but like $17 million a year for what he's doing right now, 17 and 5 a game, and really solid defense. He's more than earning that.
I did say on a podcast, I think what Grayson Allen can do for this team will be better than what Jonathan Kuminga could do for this team. So I don't know if that's true. What's Jonathan Kuminga averaging? I'm curious about that.
I'll look it up for you. Look, the challenging thing with Grayson is that his salary, this is just another elephant in the room, his salary is in that sweet spot where it's like he plays the same position as both Booker and Green, and if you wanted to upgrade at some point, that's like one of the first salaries you look at. That's just the truth. But I think it's also just true that he should be rewarded for the fact that he's playing really well, and I'm happy that there's some continuity to a certain extent, to bring that word back, that it's his third season on the Suns, and I would look forward to having him stick around longer. What is Jonathan Kuminga averaging? Jonathan Kuminga is averaging 16, 7 rebounds, 3 assists.
So about the same. Interesting.
And
obviously more rebounds. He's bigger.
38% from 3 for Jonathan Kuminga this season.
It's pretty good. Pretty good. He's been good this year. He has. Now, whether or not the Suns should have traded Royce for him is a different conversation. But I was always against the idea of Grayson because I just truly thought he could be better on a team that didn't get coached by Mike Budenholzer. I got one more, and then I assume you have one more after that, right?
It's a small one.
Okay, yeah. Mine too. I looked at the 2-man lineups for the Suns. 4 out of the 5 best 2-man lineups for the Suns this year include Mark Williams. Which is like, okay, yes, because he just has that big of an impact so far compared to when Nick Richards or Oso Ighodaro plays. The one that is not is Devin Booker and Colin Gillespie.
Oh.
When Devin Booker and Colin Gillespie share the floor, the Suns are plus 8.2 net rating. And Colin Gillespie, I wanted to find a way to talk about just how good Colin Gillespie has been this year, and he has been. And the Suns are actually doing a good job of like almost making a 6-man of the year candidate type case for him on Twitter, talking about the first Suns player to do this and that, the only guy off the bench to do this and that in the first 10 games. They have some good stats on their Twitter and Instagram about that. But in particular, I just wanted to point out when the Suns have 2 guys who can dribble, they're pretty good. And I actually do think the chemistry that Devin Booker and Colin Gillespie have had so far this season has been pretty good. Devin Booker seems to trust someone who's young and has not played much in the NBA already. And Colin Gillespie is really delivering at what he's expected to do. There was a point in the offseason where I was making the case, you and I were making the case of signing Cameron Payne just to have a guy who has NBA experience off the bench who could dribble. Gillespie's been better than anything Cameron Payne could do, for sure. He just has been.
I think
his defense has been good. His offense has been good.
I think I agree with that overall, but also I would say that to compliment Cam Payne, because I liked Cam Payne a lot. I think Cam at his best is kind of what Colin is doing.
Yeah, like 5 years ago. Yeah, 4 or 5 years ago.
In the sense that, like, I think Colin's playing probably better defense. But what's reminiscent, I guess, a little bit in Cam's game, in Colin, is just the ability to play on ball, off ball so seamlessly, right? Like Cam Payne, when he was at his best, we were like, unlike Chris Paul, who you kind of have to like involve in every action, and it's weird if he's hiding in the corner. Cam Payne can just go sit there and hit catch and shoot threes, and Colin's been so good at that. He's shooting 51% on catch and shoot threes.
So good
this season. That means that he's shooting really, really poorly. This is my last stat. I'll just throw it out. He's been shooting really, really poorly on pull-up threes.
I didn't look that up. I'm glad you have that. What is it?
15%, 4 for 26. Yeah, it doesn't
That
feel
does
like
not
that.
feel like that. Yeah.
It doesn't feel like that. It's
That's
like,
a weird one where the eye test does not quite match.
I think it's because I have a lot invested in Colin just like playing well, that every time he takes a pull-up 3, I'm like, yes, we need you to do that.
Yeah.
And
I
then
want him
he's-
to get good at it. Yeah.
And then he's been missing all of them.
That's interesting.
I think those two stats are going to even out. He's not going to shoot 50% on catch and shoots all year long. That probably goes down to 40. Likewise, he's not going to shoot 15% on pull-up 3s all year long. That probably goes up to 30 if I had to guess.
I'm going to ask him right now to keep shooting him. I'm not at all concerned about that, which is surprising. You know, if we get 20, 25 games in and it's still that bad, maybe we can talk about it. But right now, I think he's got to keep doing it. Just put pressure. The thing about the Suns is when Devin Booker comes off the floor, the only time they have good offense is if they're hitting threes. They're not finding ways to do anything else. Yeah, because they can't really. They don't have anyone who can score at the rim.
Other
besides,
than, like, dump offs to Mark Williams. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's not. He starts, right? So we're just talking about if Nick Richards or Oso's on the floor.
Right. Sure.
So they got to hit threes, and that means they got to take some of them that maybe don't feel great in the moment, but overall will even out to them being a good team. So I just want him to keep taking them. That's a good stat. I'm glad you brought that one up because I hadn't looked that up yet. If I had the concern that it was as bad as what you've described, I probably would have looked it up. But in my estimation, I thought it would have been probably closer to like 30%.
Yeah, I'm not overly concerned about it. It's actually more like
Small sample size.
The original stat that I looked up, they're third in the NBA in pull-up volume. That was the original stat because I wanted to see.
Wow, that's a good stat.
I wanted to see who's taking these shots because it's not really Book. Like Book takes some pull-up threes, but a lot of these pull-up threes are coming from other candidates, and the two big candidates are Grayson and Gillespie. Gillespie's been really bad. Grayson, I don't have the number in front of me. I think he's been about where you'd expect, like fine, 30. 35.
But he's been shooting some tough ones. He even takes like sidestep pull-up threes now.
Oh yeah, he needs to keep doing it.
I
Royce
agree.
too with his sidestep threes.
Yeah, just do it when you have it. Do it because the Suns are not creating anything else yet. You know, if someday Malowach is in there and figures out a way to score inside, then dump it to him. Or if Jalen Green's in, obviously you have options to drive. But yeah, those guys can't drive. They're really surviving off their three-point shooting right now. We didn't talk about it, but they're hitting a ton of threes, and they need to keep hitting a ton of threes in order to continue to be good. So I hope they continue to shoot a bunch, and I hope they find ways to make a lot because, look, they're 500 right now. I appreciate it. They have a couple of easy games coming up. Dallas, New Orleans. I forget who the other one is. But a couple of easy games that they could potentially win a few more in a row. Yeah, Indiana, who's 1-7.
They've got Dallas, New Orleans, Indiana coming up, so I hope they can keep the momentum going. To your point, they're 9th in the league in three-point shooting at 38%. Something you also always have to look at early on in the season is just how other opponents are shooting against you. Opponents are shooting 35.5% from deep against us so far. So, like, we have a little bit of an edge there, but that doesn't, like, it would concern me if opponents were shooting 25% or 30% through 10 games.
Defense. Yeah.
Right, because that would be like, oh, that's fake defense. We're just getting lucky. Teams are missing open shots. I don't think that's been the case.
Right.
So I think we're in a pretty good spot.
10 games in, we did our first stat deep dive. Feeling pretty good about this team. It's hard to complain. I'll be interested to see how we feel after this week. If they were fully healthy, obviously there'd be a little bit more to talk about as far as the rest of the season. Hopefully when we come back with our next Patreon episode, we can talk about a Jalen Green update and how they've looked over the next few games. But you got anything else before we go?
I mean, I just feel really good right now, so I would echo kind of some of your thoughts about that. But also I think what would make me happiest is just getting to talk about some Kaman Malowach minutes over the next 10 games. Maybe him eating up. Again, it can be modest. It can be 8 minutes a game that he takes from Oso.
I just hope they try it soon. Yeah.
Just
try it.
He's ready. He's ready Kaman Malowach, a top 10 pick, is ready to play 8 minutes against Jay Huff and the Indiana Pacers. You know, come on. Let's be serious out here. He's ready. Listen to me, Jordan Knott. I think Jordan Knott's done a really good job through 10 games too. It's like not something you really talk about coaching when it comes to stats, which is the premise of this episode. But like, there wasn't a way to fit him into the conversation. But I've been impressed with Jordan Knott.
I have too. I mean, all of these stats in some ways are a Jordan Knott stat because they're playing well as a team, and a lot of credit goes to him. But yes, if you want to hear our next Patreon episode, patreon.com/thetimeline, $6 a month for an extra podcast every week. Join our Discord, hang out with us there. Other than that, I'm excited about this week's games, and we'll be back soon to talk about it. We appreciate you all. Yes, back soon.